I found my fiancé's dating app profile the day before our wedding. Hey everyone, I need to get this off my chest. I can't believe this is happening, and I'm still trying to process everything. This is going to be long, but I need advice. I don't know what to do. So my fiancée, let's call her Sarah, and I have been together for almost 4 years. We met in college, and from the beginning we just clicked. We shared everything, our goals, dreams, even the struggles. Our relationship felt real deep, like we were made for each other. I thought she was my person. A little over 6 months ago, I proposed to Sarah. I had everything planned, the perfect proposal, the perfect setting, the perfect ring. She said yes, of course, and since then it's been a whirlwind. We were busy with work, planning the wedding, figuring out the details of life together. But even with all the chaos, she always seemed so excited. Every little thing about the wedding made her happy. I thought I was the luckiest guy in the world. So fast forward to the day before our wedding. We were at her place, finalizing a few things for the big day. I was getting a little stressed, so I decided to take a break and unwind. I picked up her phone off the coffee table to check something we had talked about earlier, wedding seating arrangements, I think, and that's when I saw it. Her phone was unlocked. She's always been pretty trusting with it, so I just went into the app I needed to check. But then something caught my eye. A notification popped up from a dating app, Tinder to be exact. I froze. I didn't even know she was on there, and the notification wasn't just some random alert. It was a match. I can't even describe the feeling that rushed through me. Shock, confusion, anger, everything hit all at once. I hesitated, but then I opened the app. And there it was, Sarah's profile, with pictures I had never seen before, tagged with descriptions that seemed off. She had been active on the app recently, with multiple conversations going on. I didn't know what to do. I felt like the ground beneath me was crumbling. My fiancée, the woman I was about to marry, had been talking to other people on a dating app, and not just once, but over a period of time. I stood there staring at her phone, trying to make sense of it all. It didn't feel real. I wanted to confront her right there and then, but I couldn't. Not before the wedding. Not with everything already planned. So I did what anyone in my shoes would do. I took a screenshot. Now I'm sitting here, still in shock. I've been packing back and forth, not knowing whether I should confront her immediately or wait until tomorrow after the wedding. I'm a mess. I love her, but I don't know how to even begin to process this. Part of me is screaming that I should just call off everything, walk away, and never look back. But another part is terrified of ruining everything. I don't know if I'm being irrational, but how could she do this? Why would she betray me like this, a day before our wedding? I'm lost. I don't know who to talk to. My friends and family all think we're the perfect couple, and I don't know how to explain this to them if I end up calling it all off. But then again, can I really go through with marrying someone who was hiding something like this from me? I guess I'm asking for advice, even though I'm not sure what I want to hear. Should I confront her before the wedding? Should I cancel everything? I just don't know what to do. I didn't sleep a wink that night. Instead of enjoying the last few hours before the wedding, I sat on the bed, holding her phone in my hands, unsure of what to do. My mind was in chaos. All the plans, all the dreams we had built together, suddenly seemed so wrong. I couldn't understand why she had done this. If we loved each other so much, if we were about to spend the rest of our lives together, then why? The next morning I saw her, happy, full of energy, getting ready for the final preparations before the ceremony. She looked beautiful, as always. It was as if nothing had happened. She came over to me, kissed me on the cheek, and asked if I was ready. I could barely respond. How could she be so calm, so innocent? Didn't she know that everything had just shattered in front of me? I had to make a decision. The wedding was hours away, and I couldn't just go through with it. But could I really call it off? What would people think? Our families, our friends, they'd never understand. I couldn't imagine facing everyone with the truth. I wanted to confront her, but I didn't know how. I didn't know if I should talk to her right then, ruin the day, and potentially ruin everything we had. But how could I marry someone who had kept something like this from me? I decided to wait. I couldn't make a decision in a rush, so I kept my distance throughout the morning. I told her I needed some space to think, to gather myself before the ceremony. She didn't question it, thankfully, but every second I spent away from her felt like an eternity. The closer we got to the wedding, the harder it became to breathe. When the time came for me to put on my suit and head to the venue, I found myself paralyzed. I stood in front of the mirror, fixing my tie, and I couldn't even recognize myself. The man in the reflection wasn't the one who was supposed to marry Sarah. The man in the reflection was broken, confused, and unsure of everything. I texted my best friend Mark. He had been with me through thick and thin, and I needed someone to talk to. He replied almost immediately, "Jude, what's going on? You're freaking me out." I tried to explain, but the words didn't come out right. My hands were shaking. I finally just typed, "I found something I wasn't supposed to. I think she's been talking to other guys. I don't know what to do. Should I cancel everything?" Mark's response was almost immediate. "You have to talk to her. Don't make a decision based on a text or a screenshot. This is huge, man." I knew he was right, but how could I talk to her on our wedding day? How could I ruin everything? I showed up at the venue, still unsure of what I was going to do. The ceremony had already started, and I watched Sarah walk down the aisle, glowing in her dress. The way she looked at me, the way she smiled, it all felt like a lie now. How could I marry her when I knew she'd been hiding something so huge from me? I stood there frozen, trying to make sense of everything. The officiant asked if anyone had any objections, and for a split second I considered speaking up. But then I looked at Sarah. She was waiting for me, her eyes full of love and trust. I couldn't bring myself to ruin it, not yet. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was overreacting. But deep down, I knew I was. I couldn't go through with it. I just needed to figure out how to say it without destroying everything. As I stood there, the words caught in my throat. Time seemed to stretch on forever. The officiant asked again, "Does anyone object?" My heart pounded in my chest, my palms sweating. I wanted to speak up. I wanted to say everything. But the truth was, I didn't know how. I was terrified of losing her, terrified of what it would mean for the rest of my life. But more than anything, I was terrified of staying silent, of pretending that everything was fine when I knew it was. The officiant's voice echoed in my ears as I stood there, frozen. Sarah, standing just a few feet away from me, smiled at me with all the warmth and trust in the world. It felt like the world was moving in slow motion, like the ground beneath me was giving way. I had so many questions, so many emotions swirling inside me, but none of them felt appropriate to voice right then, not in front of everyone. My family, her family, our friends, everyone was there, watching. The last thing I wanted was to destroy everything. I had built this moment up in my head for so long, and now all of it felt tainted. I glanced at her again, her beautiful face framed by her veil, the same woman I had fallen in love with. But the reality of what I had discovered hit me all over again. Could I trust her? Was I really about to marry someone who had been hiding this from me? The officiant asked again, this time with more urgency, "Does anyone object?" My heart pounded in my chest. I could feel the sweat forming on my palms. I opened my mouth to say something, but the words just didn't come. The weight of the situation paralyzed me. Every time I tried to speak, my mind clouded with doubts, questions, and fear. What would happen if I said something? What would happen if I did? For a moment, I thought I might lose control, that I might yell out, stop everything, and demand answers. But the reality of what that would do, the embarrassment, the heartbreak, the irreversible consequences, hit me hard. The moment stretched on. I took a deep breath and forced myself to focus. I looked at Sarah again, her smile so pure and full of hope. Could I really do this? Could I marry her today? Could I live the rest of my life with this doubt hanging over me? The officiant, seeing the hesitation, glanced at me with concern, waiting for my response. The room seemed to hold its breath. Finally, I spoke. No, my voice barely registered, but it was enough. The room went silent. Sarah's smile faltered as she turned toward me, confused and worried. What did you say?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. I swallowed hard. I didn't want to do this here, not in front of everyone, but I had no choice. I can't do this, not like this. She stepped closer to me, her expression a mix of confusion and hurt. "What do you mean? What's going on? Why are you doing this?" I felt my stomach twist. I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud, not yet, not in front of everyone. So instead, I pulled out my phone and handed it to her. "Look at this," I said quietly. Her face turned pale as she took the phone from my hand. I could see the realization in her eyes as she looked at the dating app on the screen. I watched her face go through a range of emotions, shock, guilt, and then, finally, a sort of defensive calm. "You don't understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's not what you think. I can explain everything." But the words didn't come out right. She seemed to be struggling to find the right thing to say, and I could see the panic in her eyes. The tension in the room was unbearable, and I could feel every single pair of eyes on us. I was shaking now, feeling like the weight of the entire world had fallen onto my shoulders. "I don't know if I want to hear it," I said, my voice breaking. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. I could feel the tears starting to burn at the back of my eyes. It wasn't anger I was feeling, it was a deep, painful disappointment. I had loved her, I had trusted her, and now everything we had built seemed to be falling apart in an instant. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. Please, just listen. I never meant for this to happen. I've been confused, but I love you, I always have. But I couldn't bring myself to believe her words. Not now, not after everything I had seen. I need space, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I can't do this right now, I can't marry you. And with that, I turned and walked away, feeling like a piece of me was breaking with every step I took. I walked out of the venue, my heart pounding, my mind in a fog. The cool air hit me as I stepped outside, but it did nothing to calm the whirlwind inside me. I didn't know where I was going, I just needed to get away, to clear my head, to think. I didn't hear the door behind me open, but I knew she was there before I even turned around. Sarah's voice reached me just as I was about to walk around the corner. Wait, please, don't leave like this. I stopped in my tracks, the weight of her words hanging in the air. I couldn't face her, not like this, but I couldn't ignore her either. I slowly turned around, my chest tightening with every movement. She was standing there, a few feet away from me, her face pale and her eyes filled with tears. Please, she said again, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I know what you saw, but it's not what you think. I don't want to lose you. I felt a lump form in my throat. Part of me wanted to run to her, to hold her, to believe her, but another part, the part that had been betrayed, was screaming at me to keep walking, to get as far away from her as possible. How could you do this? I finally asked, my voice shaky. How could you hide something like this from me, a day before our wedding? Her eyes welled up with tears. I never wanted you to find out like this. I never wanted to hurt you. It was a mistake, I swear. I've been struggling, but I love you. I've always loved you. That app, it wasn't what you think. I wasn't looking for anyone else. I was just confused. I shook my head, the disbelief still lingering in the back of my mind. Confused? I asked, almost laughing, but there was no humor in it. You've been talking to other guys. You've been on a dating app behind my back. You don't get to call that confusion. I wasn't thinking clearly, she said, stepping closer. I was scared. I was overwhelmed by everything, by the wedding, by my own insecurities. I don't know why I did it, but I swear I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you, and I was just looking for validation, I guess. I didn't know how to respond. Everything she said sounded like an excuse, and yet there was something in her voice, something in the way she was looking at me that made me pause. Was it possible? Could this all be a mistake, a misunderstanding? Or was I just fooling myself, clinging to the idea of what we had? I closed my eyes, trying to clear my thoughts, but all I could hear was the voice in my head telling me that I deserved better, that I couldn't just brush this off. Not now, not after everything. I need time, I said finally, my voice softer this time. I can't just pretend that this didn't happen. I need to think, I need space. I don't know what's real anymore, Sarah. She looked devastated. Please, don't leave me. I don't want to lose you. I'll do anything to make this right. Please, just let me show you how much I love you. But the more she spoke, the more I felt like I was drowning. I had so many emotions swirling in my head, and I couldn't sort them out. She was pleading with me, but the words didn't feel like enough. How could I move forward from this? How could I trust her again? I don't know if I can forgive you for this, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I can move past this. She took a shaky breath, as if she was holding back tears. I understand, she said, her voice barely audible. I understand if you can't, but please know that I never wanted to hurt you. I love you. I didn't say anything else. I couldn't. Instead, I turned and walked away, not knowing where I was going, just needing to get as far away from the situation as possible. My heart was heavy, my mind in turmoil, and the wedding that was supposed to be the happiest day of my life had turned into a nightmare. I didn't go back to the venue. I couldn't. The idea of facing anyone after everything that had happened felt impossible. Instead, I ended up in a small park a few blocks away, sitting on a bench, staring at the ground. The world around me seemed to be moving in fast forward while I stood still, frozen in the chaos of my own thoughts. I thought about Sarah. I thought about the future we had planned, all the promises we had made to each other. But now those promises felt like empty words. Trust once broken is almost impossible to rebuild. And though I had wanted nothing more than to marry her, to build that life together, I couldn't ignore the gut-wrenching feeling that something had been irreparably damaged. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't need to check it to know who it was. I'd seen the notifications, messages from Sarah. I had ignored everyone. I knew she was probably trying to explain herself again, trying to make me see things her way, but I wasn't sure I could hear it anymore. I wasn't sure I could ever see her the same way again. I stayed there for what felt like hours, alone with my thoughts until I heard footsteps approaching. I looked up, and to my surprise, it was Mark, my best friend. He had come looking for me, clearly worried. I was about to lose my mind, Mark said, sitting down beside me without asking. Everyone's freaking out. Your family, Sarah's family, they don't know what's going on. What the hell happened? I sighed deeply, running a hand through my hair. I don't know, Mark, I really don't. He looked at me with concern. You need to talk to her. You can't just leave things like this. You owe it to yourself and to her to figure this out. I shook my head. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can trust her anymore. She was so close to me, and then this. I don't know how to move past it. Mark nodded slowly. I get it, but you've known her for years. This isn't the Sarah you've known, is it? Something off here. People make mistakes, but you can't make any decisions if you don't talk to her. She's probably as lost as you are right now. I didn't say anything for a long time. His words were sinking in, but they weren't enough to fix the mess I felt like I was drowning in. Finally, I stood up. I'll talk to her, but I don't know what will happen after. Mark gave me a reassuring pat on the back. It's all you can do. You don't have to figure everything out in one conversation. I made my way back to the venue, my heart heavy with uncertainty. The building felt different now, distant, like it no longer represented the place where our dreams were supposed to come true. As I walked through the doors, I saw Sarah standing there, waiting for me. Her eyes were red from crying, and there was a look of desperation in her face that made my chest tighten. Please, she whispered as I approached. Please, just let me explain. I'm listening, I said, my voice cold but not unkind. It was the first step, but I didn't know what to expect next. She took a deep breath, looking as though she was holding on to every last shred of hope. I've been scared, I've been overwhelmed, and I made the worst decision I could ever make, one that I'll regret for the rest of my life. But what I feel for you, it's real. I've always loved you, and I never wanted to hurt you. I looked at her, my eyes searching her face for any sign of truth. Then why did you hide this from me? Why didn't you come to me before everything spiraled out of control? I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid of losing you, of you seeing me as weak. I was looking for something. Validation, maybe, but I was wrong. I didn't need anyone else but you. I was scared that maybe I wasn't enough, but that's my own insecurity, and I've been dealing with it the wrong way. I took a deep breath. There was a part of me that wanted to forgive her, to believe her words, but the damage had been done. The trust between us felt fragile, like it might break with the slightest push. I don't know if I can move past this, I said, my voice quieter now, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I want to, Sarah, I really do, but I need to think. I need time to figure out if I can trust you again. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I understand, but I'll wait for you. I'll do whatever it takes. I walked away, unsure of what the future would hold. The road ahead was unclear, filled with doubt and uncertainty. But I knew one thing for sure. No matter what happened, I needed to find a way to heal, whether it was with Sarah or on my own.